For more than a century, the VFW has placed great emphasis on educating our nation's youth on Americanism, civic responsibility, and patriotism. Enacted in 1999, the Smart Maher VFW National Citizen Education Teachers Award offers a way to recognize teachers who strive to implement these core values into their classroom's daily curriculum. From the hundreds of nomination forms we received nationwide this year, 3 award recipients stand out as extraordinarily dedicated Americans who have undeniably exceeded their responsibilities as citizens of the United States through the art of teaching. These teachers exemplify patriotism and were selected for their inventive teaching methods, creative class projects, and eye-opening trips used to encourage their students to become better citizens, while also passionately promoting America's history and its traditions. Each of these recipients will receive the $1,000 Smart Maher VFW National Citizenship Education Teacher Award for personal development, and their schools likewise will receive a $1,000 award. And I would like to take this moment to personally thank these 3 teachers and all the teachers of America. Next to parents, teachers are the best influencers to students in becoming young, civic-minded patriots who will perpetuate the values that make this nation great. Thank you, teachers, and congratulations on a job well done. First up, I'm pleased to introduce to you the National Citizenship Education Teacher Award representing grades K through 5. A United States Navy reservist, Jessica Mosley of Weiser, Idaho, having spent 4 years on active duty service and currently serving the Navy Reserves, it's no surprise that Jessica's military service has helped fuel her passion for teaching and enriching the lives of her 4th grade students at Park Intermediate School. Jessica proudly sets an excellent example for her students, plays an integral role as a leader of several extracurricular groups, and uses every opportunity to educate her students on the importance of patriotism, civic responsibility, and most importantly, flag etiquette. Her many projects have included everything from dressing in uniform to participate in the school's special Flag Day ceremony during its Veterans Day assembly, to guiding and mentoring students considering a military career. Her creative guidance has also led students to creating handmade holiday cards that they send to deployed sailors and local hospitalized veterans. Jessica has successfully generated an atmosphere where not only her students, but the entire school and surrounding community are encouraged and even energized to learn about our country and all those who have sacrificed to defend her freedoms. Please join me in welcoming VFW member, U.S. Navy Reservist Jessica Mosley, sponsored by VFW Post 2738 in Piatt, Idaho. Jessica. And now for the correct pronunciation of those towns, here's Jessica.
Oh, good morning. All right, so I'm an elementary school teacher. We do things a little weird in our classrooms sometimes, and one of the things that my kids love to do is to take selfies. And by selfies, I mean we all get together as a group, and we take them, we post them. We do them for everything we do, all these special events, and right now, I'm going to take a selfie with all of you because my kids will love it, and what better selfie to have than one with all of America's heroes. So it'll probably be facing this way to avoid the big camera mess. So everyone over there, wave, because you're about to be on camera. Thank you. All right, so first up, I would like to thank VFW Post 2738. Yes, I'm a member of it, but I couldn't have done any of this without them, and especially with Denny Kroner down there helping me. Any of you who know Denny know how tenacious he is, and when he sets his mind to something, it happens. He decided he wanted a national winner this year, and, well, we made it happen. So thank you, Denny. And I would also like to thank the entire state of Idaho delegate who has welcomed me in, made me a delegate as well, and accepted me as one of their own. So thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Go Idaho. I would also like to thank my family, my husband Scott down there. Without his constant support, I couldn't do anything that I do. That includes, but certainly not limited to, helping me arrange desks in my classroom for the 4th time in the same afternoon, to bringing me things I've forgotten at home, because I do that a lot, and to watching my kids so that I can stay late and work and get all of my papers graded and all my assignments created. He'll even bring me dinner. He's amazing. And that's just mentioning the support he gives my teaching career. I'm also an active reservist, which means I do 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. I leave to go to Florida next week, and he will be home being single dad with a family. So thank you for everything you do. My kids, Damia and Austin, who put up with all of my late nights and getting to help me in my classroom as well. And not to mention having to share their mother with every other child in our hometown. I would like to thank my principal, who nominated me for this. He said in the 18 years that he's been teaching, he had never seen somebody he felt was more deserving of this award than myself. So it is a huge honor to have been nominated by him. And my whole team. Teaching is not a single thing. We work together as a team. So I couldn't do it without all of my fellow teachers. And, of course, my students. If it wasn't for my students, I wouldn't have a job. So I appreciate them and everything that they do as well. The very first time, my first year teaching, Veterans Day was coming up, and I told my students that I was a veteran. I was amazed at the response I got. It was immediately, you can't be a veteran. You're a girl, and you're not old. And so from that moment, I made it one of my missions to teach my kids who veterans are, what they do, and why they do it, and that veterans come in every shape, size, color, gender, everything. And that was the start of my Veterans Day lesson, which led to my Veterans Day assembly, which got even bigger, and it gets bigger every year. And with that, I'm able to reach every student in my school district at least once in their career in teaching them what the military is, what they do, what a veteran is, and all of that stuff. And throughout reaching every student, I get to teach them what was sacrificed, lost, and gained by our veterans, all of you. Because without each of you, everyone who has sacrificed something for our country so that we may have our freedoms and liberties. So I want to thank every single one of you for this award. It is such an honor to get an award like this from the VFW. And once again, because when else am I going to have the opportunity? It might be 5 months away, but go Navy, beat Army. Thank you.
Okay, next I'm pleased to introduce the National Citizenship Education Teacher of the Year, representing grades 6 to 8, Donna Kregelka of Okemos, Michigan. As a daughter and niece of 3 World War II veterans, Donna grew up with a unique sense of patriotism and appreciation for our country. Remembering her father's constant reminder that America's real heroes were the ones in the memorials and graves, Donna has spent more than 30 years teaching citizenship and fostering love of country among her students. Donna has a strong history of creating and implementing activities that benefit both her students and their community. from her involvement in the school's Valentine for Veterans program and its annual Veterans Day Assembly to her annual U.S. Constitution Party, where students enjoy a buffet comprised of red, white, and blue foods while dressed in their most patriotic outfits. Donna has exhibited a love and pride for a country that allows her to connect with her students and inspire them to be best Americans that they can be. Donna has successfully established a World War II class where, with consistently full class rosters, she teaches students the significance of war and the importance of honoring and remembering the sacrifices of so many. So please join me in welcoming Donna Kregelka, sponsored by Post 2406 in Charlotte, Michigan. Donna.
National Commander John Wojcicki, State of Michigan VFW Commander Paul McIver, and honored guests, thank you for this prestigious award and allowing me to talk to you today. I also would like to thank the VFW Post, which I am now a member of, 2406, Commander Mark Williams, my dear 8th grade student, Julia Layton, who nominated me, her mother, Vicki, Holly Allison, who have been so kind and supportive. And I'd also like to thank my best friend, Luann Chevalier, her husband, Gary, her daughter, Nikki, Kozari, oh, I screwed it up, didn't I? Koziars, got it. Okay. Her daughters, Taylor, Kennedy, and Hope. So thank you. I've seen it written that it's the veteran, not the reporter, who has given us freedom of the press. It is the veteran, not the lawyer, who has given us the right to a fair trial. I grew up with a love of my country and a strong sense of patriotism. And, of course, my dad watching every John Wayne movie ever made. My dad and 2 uncles fought in World War II. One was a Navy fighter bomber pilot in the Pacific, and another fought in North Africa against Rommel. My dad, now severely disabled by a stroke, was with the 5th Infantry Division, nicknamed the Red Diamond, and fought all through Europe. I am so blessed to teach our young people to remember and honor you, our veterans. As a teacher, I believe it's my role to make sure our young people remember the sacrifices veterans have made. To be the guide from one generation to another, to pass all I hold dear in my heart to our future generations. When I was starting up the World War II class, I asked my dad what he thought of the idea. He was touched and appreciative that the war would be remembered by young people, but he was worried that no one would really care and there'd be little interest. But he asked me, if there was interest, would I please remember what sacrifices the people back home made? Well, the class is constantly filled to capacity, and I can tell my dad, young people do care, and they do want to remember. We construct various battle boards in this class, and after we study the battle. You cannot imagine how hard it was for me to hold back tears when, as the groups presented their battle boards to our seniors at the Senior Center, a gentleman came up to one group of boys that had reconstructed the Battle of the Bulge. You know this battle? Yes, sir, we studied it. Well, I was there. Thank you for remembering. I have learned that most students did not know what Veterans Day was or meant. And I've learned that when they do know, they want to show respect and gratitude. They ask, what's the best way to honor or salute a veteran? You walk up and you say, thank you, is what they've learned. I have learned that Marines and soldiers can be brought to tears when their son or daughter goes on stage and read that they are their son or daughter's heroes. It is so touching, and it happens every year at our Veterans Day Assembly. I have learned that each veteran that came home believes the real heroes were the ones left behind. A student told me about his great uncle and why he never wore his medals, among them the Distinguished Flying Cross. His answer? Because the people who died for the country never got a chance to wear them, so why should I? I have learned that a raggedy old pair of jungle boots sitting on the stage at my school's Veteran Day Assembly meant more to a Vietnam veteran who wore them than any of us in the audience could imagine. In short, I learned about Americans from all walks of life, dedicated to the freedoms we enjoy today, that know where the future of America lies. And lastly, I have learned since receiving this award that there are no more dedicated, amazing, kind people who love their country than our veterans. We have many rights in this country. We can criticize our political leaders. We can write letters to the newspaper criticizing policies we don't like, and on and on. And why can we do this here? Because of you sitting in the audience, our veterans. And because I've seen it written, it is the soldier and the airman, not the college professor, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the Marine and sailor, not the preacher, who's given us freedom of religion. It is the Coast Guardman, not the politician, who has given us the right to vote. And it is the veteran who salutes the flag, who serves under the flag, and whose coffin is draped by the flag, who gives the protester the right to burn the flag. And so, thank you again for standing behind teachers who teach American students their history, America's history, and the sacrifices made to keep this country great. Thank you.
It is also my great pleasure that I introduce to you the National Citizenship Education Teacher of the Year Award representing grades 9 through 12. William Ellery from Carmel, Indiana. Witnessing, there's the Hoosier claps, there you go. I'm just down the road in Louisville. Witnessing military service and sacrifice firsthand as the son of a Cold War veteran and a younger brother to a submariner who served during the Soviet Union's collapse, William formed an understanding of America's responsibility to acknowledge those that have borne the burden of protecting our freedom at a very young age. For more than 20 years, William has used his classroom to aid his students in developing a keen appreciation and deep respect for those who have sacrificed so greatly to ensure that our way of life endures. He brings history to life by incorporating veteran guest speakers into his lessons, even taking students to meet and visit with Doolittle Raiders. He organizes a Veterans Day essay and where flags and pins are distributed, and has built a Veterans Memorial and organizes trips for students to travel to the cemeteries of Europe and place U.S. flags on the graves of America's fallen. He has truly gone to great lengths to ensure his students develop a superior respect for America's veterans, and today we take a moment to thank him. Please help me in welcoming William Ellery, sponsored by VFW Post 1003 in Carmel, Indiana. William.
Hold on, I needed a drink of water. Get your seatbelt. Let me sit here for a minute. First, I want to congratulate my peers over here. I cannot imagine I taught Sunday school for the first time for my 6th grade son. Realized I teach high school juniors, all of whom are going advanced placement international baccalaureate kids. And the patience it takes for you guys, it's quite an accomplishment. And I want to congratulate them. You'll find some similarities in some of our comments because while I do deal with a different age, clearly our profession is the same. So congratulations to both of you. All right, so if you will indulge me for a little bit, it is very much my honor to address you today. I cannot convey easily what this means to me, both as a teacher and as a citizen patriot. So in indulging me, please allow me to draw some attention to a few people who are here and a few who are not here. We don't get this podium very often as teachers. First, my parents. They're seated in the front row here. My mother was a teacher. My mother was a teacher, and my father's an Air Force veteran, and later on a metallurgical engineer. My father instilled in me a sense of personal responsibility, always exemplified in this, you in the audience certainly will understand, by unwavering self-discipline and self-sacrifice. My mother demonstrated a commitment to learning and to traditional values that implanted in me a desire to learn and to teach and to always look for the good in life. I also, and there's a strong Hoosier presence here today, by the way, if you notice that the head of the VA is a Hoosier. Mike Pence is a Hoosier, and I've got a strong Hoosier contingent over here, and it's Carmel, Indiana. And I want to thank that post, the Stanley Banks 10,003, and if they'll wave, they're over here. In general, their support has been unbelievable, and in particular, I want to note 2 people from that, Tom Blandford and Richard Lair, who's the post commander. They've made this a journey that most teachers do not get the opportunity to experience, and I thank you from the furthest reaches of my heart. I certainly want to thank my principal. It's unusual, but my principal kind of gets out of my way. He asks me what I need rather than trying to give me parameters, and he allows me to do all the things I do with respect to Veterans Affairs. 2 last groups. I want to thank my own children. I would be remiss if I didn't mention them. They're not here, but they are watching on their iPads, I was informed. And my daughters, Maddie, Kenzie, and Reagan, and my son, Adam. Through them, I'm reminded that education is something that we do at home as well, and it's a weighty responsibility. They remind me to stay positive and playful and to make learning meaningful. And finally, to my wife, who's in the front row here, if you look at her, you will see that I very much married over my head. She is also, she's there, you can put the camera on her and embarrass her. She's also an accomplished historian herself, a history teacher. She sets the bar high. You'd be amazed at our discussions at the dinner table, and our vacations are all history-driven. 3 of our kids like that, 1 not so much, but she doesn't have a choice in the matter. But my wife is kind of the motive behind a lot of this stuff. So, okay. Now down to why I'm here. All of you in attendance, and it's odd that we get to address our heroes. That's something that the 3 of us are finding in common. All of you in attendance at some point in your lives embraced the motto of duty, honor, and country. You stood a post. You sailed or flew to distant lands carrying the flag and with it the hopes and dreams of our nation. You missed signature events in the lives of your loved ones. Many of you sacrificed your youth, and all of you left part of yourselves behind so that the rest of us could sleep under the blanket of freedom that you provide for us. In so doing, you continue the long and proud tradition that began when patriots at Lexington and Concord decided that the cost of freedom was worth a similar sacrifice. And that continues in a long, unbroken line through all of you and through the men and women who patrol the seas and skies and roam the world today, seeking out those who would do us harm and protecting that same idea of freedom that was born 240 years ago. Well, explaining the role of the citizen soldier is my responsibility as a teacher of history, as it is central to the story of American freedom. Thomas Jefferson bequeathed to all Americans, and indeed to all of us in this room, the duty of making sure that Lady Liberty's flame burns brightly when, in the last lines of the Declaration of Independence, he promised that America's founders would pledge unto each other their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honors. Well, all of you have similarly offered up your lives, foregone your fortunes, and defended America's sacred honor. So that motto that you follow, that you lived under, duty, honor, and country, is central to what you've done and how you have lived. As a teacher of history, I've examined the role of the citizen soldier over the course of this great nation, and I've come to believe that in my profession, that motto of duty, honor, and country is something to which all of us must strive in educating our students, or else we're in danger of failing to live up to the legacy that the citizen soldier has provided for us. You see, all of us can recall the names of great military leaders in the past, and if you had a good history teacher, you certainly can. I could mention the likes of George Washington or Matt Anthony Wayne from the Revolution, Andrew Jackson from the War of 1812, and people have heard of them. If I talk about Ulysses S. Grant or John J. Pershing, Dwight Eisenhower, Douglas MacArthur, Chester Nimitz, people nod in recognition. Mark Clark, William Westmoreland, Norman Schwarzkopf, people know them, and it's my duty to teach about them. More importantly, however, it's my duty to teach about the likes of Plum Martin, a 15-year-old who fought for 7 years in the American Revolution, eventually rising to sergeant, or to teach about Medal of Honor recipient Corporal Alvin York in the First World War, or about Captain Henry T. Waskow in the Second World War. Now, I became acutely aware of this responsibility in 2008. I was teaching about World War I, and a student asked when the last World War I veteran had died. I confidently asserted that it was some years prior. And when class was over, I checked, and lo and behold, to my dismay, I discovered that there still was a living World War I veteran in the United States. After some searching, I contacted Frank Buckles, and over Christmas break that year, my wife and I drove to the great state of West Virginia and interviewed the 106-year-old veteran in his house. Now, I'd done my research, and I knew that Frank Buckles had been 16 when he volunteered in 1917, so I confidently began, and I asked him, Mr. Buckles, you lied about your age to join the Army. Please talk about that. He responded, young man, I didn't lie. I misrepresented myself. At that point, it became clear who the real teacher was. It also exemplified one of my core beliefs as a teacher, and one that I always tell my students. You see, modern education, unfortunately, is driven by testing and test scores. You'd be shocked to know how many standardized tests kids take and how much of education is crafted to teach to a test. But something that I learned along the way is that academics and education are not the same thing. Interviews like the one I did with Frank Buckles demonstrate the principle that kids should not let their academics get in the way of their education. Making sure that kids understand that is my duty too. 20 years ago, I started taking my students to Europe during the summer. The trips began as general history trips, during which we visited places of general historic interest. On my third trip, we were traveling near the American Cemetery at Lorraine, France, and so we stopped for a visit. I was struck by the profound power of the cemetery. It was readily apparent that it was a place of dignity and honor, and was worthy of every attention that we could give it. From that point on, every trip that I've designed has been centered around a visit to American cemeteries in Europe, at which my students place flags by the graves of the Indiana dead who are buried there. Over the years, I've had the opportunity to have students visit the graves of relatives who are buried overseas with their comrades. I've seen the toughest of students brought to their knees when looking at the sight of a father and son buried side by side in the land that they'd come so far to liberate and that they saw so briefly. In 2011, we brought a Normandy veteran with us. We toured the Omaha and Utah beaches and ended up at the American Cemetery at Colville-sur-Mer. We arranged for our veteran, 90-year-old Lance Corporal Carl Hobson, to participate in the flag-lowering ceremony. Major General Evo Raguzzi happened to be there. He saluted Corporal Hobson first. It was never more clear that it was both my duty and my honor to provide this opportunity for my students. Country is the last part of that motto of duty, honor, and country, and it's perhaps the most difficult to frame in context as both a teacher and as an historian. You see, we're supposed to be honest brokers of information and not cheerleaders, but I find it very hard to separate the two. Over the years, I've had countless veterans speak with my students. I built a Veterans Memorial on my school grounds. I've hosted Veterans Day ceremonies at my schools. I've sponsored Support the Troops rallies. I've attended funerals for veterans at which families have played documentaries that my students have made. I've given veterans eulogies, and I've endeavored to bring to light the role that citizen soldier has played in embodying all this great nation stands for. I am reminded, as you were earlier, of Marine Corps Chaplain Father Dennis Edward O'Brien's poem that it's the soldier, not the reporter, who has given us the freedom of the press, the soldier, not the poet, who has given us the freedom of speech. It is a soldier, not the campus organizer, who has given us the freedom to demonstrate. It is a soldier who salutes the flag, who serves beneath the flag, and whose coffin is draped by the flag, who allows the protester to burn the flag. You see, the soldier is the country, and the country is the soldier. They're inextricably linked, and while this country has on occasion erred, it has always righted the ship, and it has been the citizen soldier upon whose shoulder that responsibility has fallen. So, duty, honor, and country, three elements that individually have strength, but collectively they have allowed us to forge the greatest nation in the history of man. It's my job as a teacher of history to convey that message and the story of the men and women who have so ably and willingly defended it. It's been my proudest professional moment to receive this award, and to address you today. And please remember, do not let your academics get in the way of your education. I thank you for your kind attention and for all that our veterans have done and continue to do for this nation. May God bless our veterans. May God bless those who continue to keep us free. And always may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.